Hello, Libra. Welcome to Ula Tea Leaf Readings. My name is Lenor, and today I'm going to be reading your tea leaves. All right, so Libra, I am so excited that you are here with me. I'm so happy to have you here. So stick around because these things unfold in surprising ways. It's not just like, okay, this is a love reading. We're going to talk about your next, Mr. Mrs. Right. No, they're not cut and dry like that. We go on some twisty, windy adventures here at Ula. Now we're beginning with the Four of Wands energy, which is all about completion. Okay. Now we have this beautiful wheel. I always think of a wagon wheel when I see it. I'm like, okay, that's the wheel of the chariot, right? It's the wagon wheel. It's that thing that is going to keep us moving forward, right? On to the next thing. We're not hanging out here in this energy that has been. No, we're going into the next doorway. We're on to the next phase. The inspiration, the fires in the middle, always a welcome change of pace. And I do feel like this next period of time, you're going to be quite inspired. Okay. Now we're going to get into the details of these tea leaves here. But first I want to tell you, thank you. I appreciate you for being here. I appreciate you for taking a chance and clicking on the reading. I'd love to hear from you. I want to know kind of like, what are you interested in hearing about? What brings you to these readings, right? Why are you watching tarot and divination and tea leaf readings on the internets? We all have our different reasons. We all have different reasons for being here. If you are willing to share what your reasons might be, what your motivations might be, I'm really interested. I kind of just, sometimes you start to lose touch with what people want, because you're so in like your own work and stuff. And like, I need to remind myself, why are we doing this? Because it's not just for me. It's actually very little to do with me. I'm just here. I'm just hanging out. But it has a lot to do with you. So I want to know, what are your motivations? What are your questions? What really what's that burning thing inside of you that you need to know about? Put it in the comments. Or you can email me at ulaishere@gmail.com. One thing I will mention, because I've gotten some emails about this, and if you have been around the channel at all, or if you know who I am, or you know my husband or whatever, you might know that I have been on a wellness journey, the last physical wellness journey, the last year and a half or so. And I've lost a lot of weight. Okay, I've lost over 100 pounds, and I've done that without medicine, which I'm not knocking, by the way. You do what you got to do, however you got to do it, right? But I've gotten emails asking about guidance about weight loss, and I just want to tell you right here in the open, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not anybody, besides I've done this by myself and with the aid of a lot of YouTube videos. And, but I don't know. I'm just doing what I work out. I do some keto, fasting and that kind of stuff. It's different for each of us. So what I can tell you, if you have these questions, start doing your research. I unfortunately am not a good source of information. At least not, not here. At least not here. I'm not qualified for any of that. So anyways, let's get going. We have a bird who is sitting down here, kind of hanging out, you can see. And it seems like a little song coming out. Okay. Looks to me like a blue jay. Okay, so I do feel like you have somebody who has transitioned that is making themselves known in your waking life, right? Like they're not just coming around in dreams, visions. You are feeling them in your home. You are seeing synchronicities, patterns, maybe even some poltergeist activity, things moving around, things that were lost showing up. Just constant coincidences that you're like, okay, these are now synchronicities because there's no coincidence here. Very apparent, very apparent. Now, this person who is coming through, very psychic. We have the dolphin. So the dolphin to me is like one of the most psychic symbols. And I feel like it seems like you yourself are probably clairvoyant in some way. I feel like this is something that ties you to this elder deeply. I don't know that you ever met them. I don't think that you met them, but you've always known them. They have shown up in your dreams. I think that it's almost kind of like you perceive them as being somebody who dwells in your dream life, but the reality is this is an ancestor. This is somebody that you are related to by blood. Also strong with that clairvoyant psychic energy. I feel that you are somewhat of a medium, but I think it's more like prophecy, prophesizing, seeing the future. You have dreams about things and they happen how you say. Here's the thing though, I think you're in a part of your life where your understandings of these emanations has shifted. And I think that comes with experience, right? You've lived, you've done more things, you've felt more things, you have more impressions, you have studied more things, your experience. It changes how we receive information, right? So I do feel like you are at a place where you are realigning yourself with how maybe once things felt a certain way, you attached like meaning to a symbol. Like for instance, for me, and I'm trying to think of like a symbol that's changed for me over time, like the deer. Okay, where once I would have maybe thought of a deer as being like doe-eyed and just skittish and kind of a scaredy and hidden and all this stuff. Now I think of the deer. Whenever I see the deer come up in something, I know that something most sacred is happening. That there is a meeting with the divine in a physical form, right? Something happening, like where, I don't know, you're at the grocery store and you bump into somebody and you talk for a second and you walk away thinking, I don't know if that was a human being. That might have been an angel. You just have that weird feeling, right? I feel like it's just, there's an onslaught of these things happening. I feel like even at times you might feel like you're going crazy because you're so out of your normal humdrum on autopilot. Everything feels intense. Everything feels meaningful. And I don't mean in like a manic way, right? And I say this as a person who, when I come out of my anxiety, depression, like, which is normal, that's like baseline for me. And I start to feel pretty good. And I'm like, oh, shoot, what's going on? I might have some interesting few days here. Not like that, no. But I do feel like, yeah, there's a rising in mood because you are overhauling your operating system. You're like whatever job you've had or whatever, it's, the government's good for this too. Every time you go to a website or you go into a place and they're overhauling their system, like we're changing our the register system or, whatever. And it's a freaking nightmare, right? You don't know, nobody knows how to do anything. The people in customer service haven't been trained on it yet, or not to the point that they need to be, or, it's just chaos. Chaos. But I feel like for you, you are in that period of time where, you are implementing a new operating system for yourself. And it does feel chaotic at times. And you maybe do feel really big emotions. And maybe you don't feel like yourself all the time. Or maybe you feel so much like yourself that you're like freaking out because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm, always masking. And suddenly I'm out here just like, being who I am. And somebody saw me for who I am and all my strangeness and coolness and glory and shame and all of that. And they saw me and they know. And, I feel like you're shedding. You're shedding a lot of stuff that you've carried that wasn't yours to carry, which is the conditioning, which is the fear of just being who you are. It's the fear of, people not liking us or judging us or thinking, wow, what a strange lady, I take it as a compliment. I don't know. I guess I'm just a contrarian at heart. But, so I feel like in this time of transition, and it is, I think, core belief shifting, how you behave shifting, your reactions, your coping mechanisms changing, your understanding of life, the divine, the cosmos shifting, everything. You are in chaos, but it's not bad. I think it feels good, actually. I feel like you are in a place where you are refreshed, rejuvenated. Now, up here we have a person sitting. Okay, you can see, here's the body, here are the legs. We have, it looks like the letter E right there, lowercase e. And this one right here is a goose. Craig, maybe the name Craig, C-R-A-I-G, Crag. Oh, look, it's Diana or Artemis or Hathor with the moon crest. Okay, so we also have the rabbit and we have the person feeding the rabbit. Here's the rabbit. You can see here's the ear, the head, the body. We have a person here feeding the rabbit. Okay, so the rabbit is prolific, right? It is abundant. It is fertile. It is just reproducing all over the place. And I feel like this is all about your creativity, about your ability to make money. And I do feel like you are doing something where maybe you're going back to school or you're taking on a new skill set or honing your skill set. Maybe you've asked at work, can I be cross-trained? I want to know how to do this other work in this other department or whatever. Making yourself more educated and, hopefully being able to keep your job, So I'm not all about, the capitalist world we live in, but, I do know one thing is if you educate yourself and you know how to do a lot of different things, it gets you further and further away from being helpless in life, okay? So I do feel like you are on this roll. You are equipping yourself with all kinds of skills and information and abilities. And I see this really working out for you. I feel like you are coming into a place where you're going to be making money. You're going to have those resources. And I do feel like there is less stress. You feel a little bit more relieved about life because you're being so proactive. Okay? Now, I almost wonder if you have like a mother or a mother-in-law who has had some problems with boundaries. Okay? That's the goose over here. Just screaming in your ear. And I think that this is a lot to do with this transition in your life, right? It's like, you're like 45. Now maybe a midlife crisis, I don't know. You're 45. You've been doing the same job at the same company for the last 20 years, You lucked out. You got into a good position. You're making good money. Everything's pretty solid in life. And then, I don't know, you go and see a documentary and decide, I'm going to quit my job and move to, I don't know, New Delhi or something, right? And your family's like, what the heck is going on? What is going on with you? Why would you do this? Like, why would you give up everything? Like, this doesn't make sense. Are you having, you need to go to the doctor. You need to get your, things checked out. Get some blood work done. What is happening here? But you see the vision. You know the path that you want to take. And maybe nobody else understands that. So I do feel like there's some amount of like this oppressive feeling, but I don't think that you're going to succumb to it, In fact, I think it gives you the energy to keep going in spite of them, maybe even. Maybe not. I don't know. But I do feel like you're like on a I'm going to prove everybody wrong kind of tip, which I like. I do. I like that. I like proving people wrong. All right. Now we have the horse and we have a person running. We also have a fish above. So here's the horse, person running, head, body, legs, fish. So I'm going to ask the oracle cards real quick. We're going to do some oracle cards with this one. Because I want to know, we have somebody running because of some financial thing. It almost seems like going towards the past. And I'm wondering if this is like, almost like somebody that owed you money, or I don't even know. We're going to ask. But I do feel like there's a sense of having to chase somebody down to get the money that they owe you. Maybe. We'll see. We're going to see what the cards say. Okay, so we have empathy. Right off the bat, you're empathetic. Of course, we're talking to a Libra. Which can be a bad thing for people. Not you necessarily, unless you're not good at putting up those barriers so you're not feeling every little thing. But it can be bad for other people because whatever energy they're putting off to you, you are going to meet them with equal energy. So if that's not good, baby, you better watch out. Now we have domination. Okay, so that's what it is. This is somebody trying to pull up on you. And trying to, it's almost like, say you... I'm trying to think of something that's not unethical. You're collecting rent. I don't like this storyline I'm doing here. You're trying to collect rent, but there's somebody who thinks that they can intimidate you, so they're not going to pay that rent on time. And they're going to let you know, I'm not paying your rent, and what are you going to do about it? But you're an empath. You're not going to let this person walk on you. Do you know who you are talking to, my fellow? Do you know where I came from? It's not the block I came from. I came from HE double hockey sticks, and I crawled through that thing, through the fires. on my hands and knees and lifted myself out, dusted myself off, and here I am. You think you're going to talk to me like that? You think you're going to dominate the situation? I don't think so. And that's the energy. All right, let's see. Indecision. Oof. That is a recipe for disaster. Devotion. Flirtation. Enthusiasm. Okay. So, having to do with who, though? That's what I really want to know. Who is this having to do with? So, we have indecision. I don't know. Maybe you like this person. Maybe there's like maybe some of the dominance is because they know that you feel for them. Devotion, flirtation, enthusiasm. So I think that they turn this on. They see, I'm not going to get you through, being crude or being aggressive or whatever, because you're going to match that energy. But if they come with devotion, if they come with flirtation, they're paying attention, they're listening, they're, this, that, and your enthusiasm is rising, so is theirs. And then what? And then what? And then what do they do? It leads to fortune and power. Okay. Fortune and power. Now, I want to believe versatility. I want to believe that this is actually going to be somebody who ends up being a good partner. Gosh, that sounds crazy. Maybe a work partner, maybe like within the family. I feel like once you kind of sort this financial stuff out, it really starts to go more smoothly. I feel like you actually end up having this deep connection with this person. And I think it is. It's kind of like one of them things. And if, I don't know, if you grew up as a girl or a woman, you might understand this, is that we often will come out as hard as we can with people, with other women, or maybe only open to some degree. Right? But still, like, maybe this is kind of competition. Maybe this chick is sketchy. Maybe she's got ulterior motives, whatever. And we put up that, like, hard front. But then, someday you're in the bathroom and you need, like, a Kotex or something, and they happen to be in there, and you get to talking, and next thing you know, like, hey, we had this, like, misunderstanding about whatever these resources are, and maybe you weren't forthcoming, but you know what, like, we kind of like each other, we're kind of cool, we kind of, I feel like you end up making a good friend out of this situation, or returning to a relationship or whatever. I feel like for at least the time being, it will lead to a more solidified base, consistency, feeling safe within your life to some degree, and the ability to make more money because of this, right? It's like, when you send your kids to school, right? If they're coming from a household where everybody's screaming all morning and yelling at each other and crying and, threatening each other and whatever, the cortisol's up. The stress is there, right? You don't want to send your kid out into the world like that. You don't want to go out in the world like that, right? So I feel like for you, you are coming into a place where you are prioritizing your mental health, your emotional well-being, and your stress levels. That's a secret key of the world. Our stress levels, the cortisol, the inflammation. It's a lot, right? So I feel like as you're managing these things, and also, doing these kind of resets on your nervous system, it allots for this room in your life yeah, to be inspired, to be creating, to feel confident, to have deep and meaningful relationships with people. Because when we start the day, or our life is at the foundational part of it, a mess, violent, chaotic, aggressive, depressive, neglected, unstable, how can you do anything else? How can you do? I remember going to school. I didn't like school, but I went because, I didn't fight going because I got to get out of my household. I wasn't being abused when I was at school. I wasn't being neglected or, told terrible things, or terrible things weren't being done to my body, and so I was at school, and it was a bit of peace. But you know what? I didn't do well with my schoolwork. I did okay socially. I wasn't like hella popular, but I got along okay. Things could have been infinitely better if I was going to school from a calm, intentional, productive, open, vulnerable, understanding, supportive, abundant household. But I didn't. And so what I know, and I even see this in my daughter, because she comes from a home where we prioritize these things. Because both my husband and I, we both came from, very traumatic childhoods, traumatic households. Those foundational places where we jump off for the day, super important. And I can see in this reading that you are understanding this about yourself, and you are seeing yourself begin to flourish because you are prioritizing managing these aspects of life and how you are engaging with others, what your relationships look like, how much you are willing to take in emotionally, and what you are putting out. That's advanced work, Libra. It really is. Okay, so now we have a message that is coming. We have the house again. So this is about the household. Now we have the dog. And the dog, it feels like there's something coming up. What is this? I see mother, I see daughter, I see the dog. And the dog's pulling, holding it on a leash and pulling the daughter out of the throne or seat. And the mother, she sits and watches quietly. Demeter, Persephone, the dog, pulling her down. So we are going into autumn. Persephone is descending to the underworld. So I do feel like you are kind of in line with this energy. I do feel like you're coming into a place where there's a lot of passion, you're proactive, you're inspired, but you're also slowing down, maybe socially, or going out and doing things that costs money. That's the big thing. I feel like you are saving money and you're planning on being home more. I think that's the big thing. You want to be home more in this next period of time. We also have the number 62. 62. Yeah. And I feel like you're going to be home really building something up for your life. Now, there will be a message. And I feel like this is it almost feels like an actual like voice message, or somebody called and left a message. Somebody sent you like a voice message on Messenger, something like that. I can hear it's a male's voice, masculine. And what is it? I'm gonna ask. Let's see. What is it? What is it about? Again, protection. Okay. Protection. Optimism. Charity. Risk. Influence. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I feel like at times you're really resistant about sharing yourself. And I think that's because you're protecting yourself. You've had to protect yourself for so long, or you did for so long that you've never stopped, right? Which I think it's in the way of engaging with things deeply, letting yourself fully be in something. Now, we have this dose of optimism that is flowing through your life, okay? This is helping lessen that need to kind of wall yourself off. Now, I do feel like with the charity, this is a call to service, okay? You will find freedom in service. Being a volunteer, being a counselor, being, a helping hand for family members, whatever it is, okay? This is important for you to be of service, okay? Now, it is a risk, and I know it is. No good deed goes unpunished, okay? I get it. But you persevere. You weigh the risks, and you still go forward with it. You are putting yourself out there. This will end up putting you in a place of influence, okay? Now, please don't film yourself giving stuff to, like, unhoused people, like, in trying to be an influencer like that. That's not what I mean here, okay? I feel like it's like if you go to one of the local retirement homes and you start hanging out and you're, reading to them, you're talking to them, you're like playing games and stuff, and suddenly you're a king or queen of, Shady Oaks retirement home or something, and now you got all the influence. That's what I mean, okay? You are connecting within your community, and that is lending you this elevated position, okay? Now we're going to do our lucky numbers. Number 83 for the first one. Number 89, 83, 89, and 27. 27. All right. Yes, Oracle. Sorry, this is like fourth reading now. I'm like, wait, what have we done? What have we done? All right, we're going to flip through. These are the Wild Offering Oracle cards. They're beautiful. As you can see, we have that lovely Ganesh. Spaciousness. What do I no longer need? Help me, God, to release whatever people, places, or things drain my vital essence. Show me what will fill me with enthusiasm and joy. All right. Well, Libra, I'm going to go ahead and tell you I love you because I do. And I thank you so much for being here with me, for spending your time with me. It does mean so very, very much to me. If you want to like, subscribe, or leave a comment, I'd love to hear from you. Other than that, again, I'm just going to say I love you. Take care of yourself. We'll talk in a few days. Good night.